My name is Laura Osterhout, Executive Director at the Rochester Regional Library Council, and we're very happy to continue our partnership with Causewave Community Partners. We've been working with them for many years, back when they were still called the Ad Council, and we partnered together to offer the RRLC Causewave I'm reading something and trying to talk at the same time, the Capacity Building Assistance Grant Award. And this year we have $7,500 to put towards these awards, and these are available to all members of our RLC to apply for these. And we have with us today Caitlin Pellet from Causewave. She's going to talk us through some of the different activities that can be done as a part of this grant. For example, a strategic roundtable, brand development, customer touchpoint, board development, and that kind of thing. So she's going to talk us through these activities, and then we're happy to take questions at any time about any of the activities, and I'm going to sort of monitor the questions through the chat. So if you have any questions, please go ahead and send them in, and I can interrupt Caitlin at a good time and we can take care of your questions. Okay, Caitlin, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks so much. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. I have a few slides that I'm going to run through to give you kind of an overview of what some of our opportunities might be to partner together in the future. Just to give you a little bit of a background about Causewave, if you don't know who we are. We're a nonprofit organization. We've been in the community for 67 years. And as Laura said, for a long time, 65 of those years, we were called the Ad Council of Rochester, and changed our name about 2 years ago to better reflect, number one, the fact that we work outside of Rochester, and number two, the fact that our work and our services had expanded outside of just advertising. So you'll see in some of the things I'll touch on, are still rooted in that core of marketing and advertising, but with that we do have a number of other options that nonprofit organizations and libraries face. So we're a small team. We've got 10 staff, and we utilize volunteers from a number of different companies around town that provide professional skill sets to help us broaden our impact, which allows us, even with just 10 staff, to work with about 200 nonprofits a year. Every year, and largely in part because of our long-standing partnership with RRLC, many of those partnerships are with libraries. To date, we've worked with over 40 libraries. We've worked with all different kinds of libraries, public, academic, medical, and we've worked with library systems, and we've worked with library council. So in my time here, I've worked with over 25 libraries, so it's definitely a big piece of our work and a big portion of the work that I've done here at Causewave. So applying for an RLC grant, some of the things that this might help your library with is creating or enhancing your library's marketing and communications plan. So some libraries have something that exists that they want to improve upon or add to, and others don't necessarily have a written formal plan that they're following. They're maybe doing things a little bit more ad hoc. So this is an opportunity to get a little bit more strategic and focused on the marketing and communications that you're doing for your library. The next is identifying your library's brand. So every library is different, as you know, and in my experience, that's very true. And so every library has a different brand. And so starting with a process to internally identify that can have a lot of benefits to other things that you do. And we'll talk more about that in just a minute. Developing a strategic fundraising plan. So I know not every library can fundraise. Some people do it or have their friends' organizations do it. Some have established a foundation to do that. But a strategic fundraising plan with goals established and who the audiences are is what this could help with. Making improvements to patron, donor, and community member experiences. Customer service is a kind of a category or a topic that comes up frequently when we talk to libraries. And so we have a process that's really focused on that, that takes a look at all of your experiences really deliberately and making recommendations for improvements. And then developing a board or a friends training or an engagement plan. So how do you get your board or your friends group more engaged? And for some people that could be engaged in fundraising, for others that's engaged in program delivery or increasing their volunteerism for the library if you have a small staff. But all of those things could be kind of encompassed under this bullet. And then lastly, something that we've done a few times with Pioneer Library System is this idea of a mystery shopper program. And that's kind of a focused effort that we've done across the system, but that you could do within your own library to look at how you're doing customer service wise, materials wise, all the things that happen inside your library, and then making improvements from there. So this is really a broad overview, and like I said, you can see that there are a number of things that don't necessarily touch on marketing or advertising, which is again why we changed our name. So I'm going to go into detail on each of these and talk about specific programs that could accomplish the goals that are on this slide, and then we'll take questions. So the first program is something called a strategic roundtable. And this program is really built to help your library get more ideas or outside perspective on a challenge or opportunity that you're facing. So, if you have an idea for a new program that just hasn't worked or been able to get off the ground, if you need a new direction for an underperforming program or event that you think, should be highly attended or should be raising more money, this is a good program for that. If you have an upcoming event or a capital campaign that you're planning, this could be a way to get a number of ideas and, again, outside perspective. So the way that this program works, we meet with your team and kind of get really focused on what the actual problem or opportunity it is that you're facing, so that we can articulate that to a group of professional volunteers that Causewave would recruit to sit around a table and brainstorm. And so the thing I always like to say about this program is the program is built to give you a ton of ideas. So there are some organizations that feel like we've got too many ideas and I need help focusing them. So this maybe wouldn't be a program for you if that's the case. But if you are looking for that outside perspective, or you think that you need some additional ideas around a challenge or an opportunity, this is a great program to do so. It'll be heavily facilitated by our team. We'll do a kind of a mini prioritization at the end of the session, so to give you some direction and help focus your efforts. And then there'll be a follow-up meeting with our team where we'll talk in more detail about how do you take all these ideas and actually move some of them forward. So that's the Strategic Roundtable program. The next program is Marketing and Communications Planning. So this process is highly adaptable to whatever the needs are that your library is facing. It's been used to address a lot of different topics that nonprofits face related to their communications efforts. So specific to libraries, this could range from improving attendance in general at the library, if you feel like your attendance numbers are down or your circulation numbers are down, attracting new audiences to the library, increasing participation in a program or across your programs. It could be related to event planning, talking about the marketing and communications of an event, or a number of other things that you might be facing that could benefit from having a formal written marketing plan behind them. So when this process is complete, you'll have a marketing and communications plan that includes a formal analysis of your desired outcomes or goals, we try to think about short-term and long-term. Who the target audiences are, so putting a profile against the people that we're trying to reach and motivate as a result of the plan. What the key messages are for those audiences, and also the calls to action, meaning what is it that we want them to do. You know, we want them to come to a program, we want them to come to an event, things like that. And then what are the supporting strategies and tactics that help us get there, that help us achieve those goals. We'll also talk a little bit about budget and timing so that you have those two things aligned with what you're actually going to do. Make sure that we're building a plan that's realistic within the resources that you have, both time and money. The next program is brand development. And this can help with a number of things. A few kind of high-level benefits are staff, board, and volunteer recruitment and retention, community engagement, partner-wide cohesion, so thinking about all of your partner networks, and having a powerful and consistent aid to decision-making. So a lot of times when people hear the word brand, they think about the logo or the tagline. But brand is really goes beyond that. The best definition is that brand is really the what people believe about you. And a lot of people assume that people believe things about companies based on the advertising that they see. And the reality is we believe things about brands based on all of the experiences that we have. So that is inclusive of advertising, but it's actually much more formed by the in-person experiences that we have. So when people walk into your library, what is that? What do they feel? What are the experiences that they have? So that relates to customer service. It relates to the physical environment of your library. It relates to collections. It relates to your communications, your website. So all of those things are expressions of your brand. And a lot of times organizations haven't sat down and sort of reached consensus to define what it is you want people to experience. And so as a result, some organizations are delivering inconsistent experiences without even knowing it. So this process is a great kind of starting point to get internal consensus around your brand with staff and maybe some of your board. We've done this process for a lot of libraries. And again, this idea that, when you hear the word library, a lot of people assume that they know what it's about, but all of your libraries are very different and have very different brands. And so doing the work to define that first makes all of your decision making down the road easier. So brands can be used to inform all of the decisions that you make, from collections to events to programs to, again, the physical environment, and then certainly things like your communications and your advertising too. So this process is designed to help you, your staff and your board and your friends group be able to clearly and consistently articulate who you are and what you do for your constituents. So, if you feel like you have, an anniversary coming up or a capital campaign coming up, or you want to do more fundraising, sometimes brand development is a starting point before you do that work to make sure that everybody is internally on the same page about what your library is about, so that when you're messaging externally, the two align. So that's brand development. The next one is fundraising planning. So kind of follows a similar process to the marketing and communications plan that I just talked about, but this would be more focused on your library's development efforts. So topics can range from target audience prioritization, donor message development, so what are we saying to donors, what's important to donors, increasing participation in an event that has a fundraising focus, creating a stewardship plan, stewardship meaning, what is the sort of total life cycle that we have with our donors, starting from, maybe they start as a volunteer, and so that's their entry point. And the top level engagement is we want them to maybe write us into their will. And so all of the things that happen between them, starting as a volunteer and writing us in our will, is that stewardship plan. So how are we, kind of moving people along the relationship cycle so that we're creating long-lasting relationships that have long-term benefit to the library. Or determining the right mix of funding sources is another thing that we've helped organizations with. So, is it right for your library to be focused just on individual donors, or should you be focused on grants plus corporate, or should it be a mix of all three? So, figuring out exactly what's right for your library and then putting a plan against that could be something we do. So when this process is complete, you'll have a strategic fundraising plan that's right-sized for your organization's capacity. So, we don't want to write a 20-page plan if you've got a small team that would really only be able to implement a 3-page plan. And so that's the reason that all of our work is really collaborative with you and your team to make sure that you have the best chance at implementing it. And then it has kind of similar pieces to the marketing and communications plan. We'll talk about key messages and calls to action. What are our fundraising strategies and what are the tactical steps that support those strategies? And then are there any budget implications, and how long does this plan run for? So that's fundraising planning. The next process is touchpoint analysis. So this is a process where if a lot of libraries that we've talked to have talked about customer service and wanting to improve that, this is sometimes a process that we talk with them about. This process can help with improving consistency or cohesion between different programs or departments or staff members. So if you feel like you have kind of varying experiences from staff to staff, this could be a good option to help improve upon that. This process helps to take a systematic approach to aligning your patron, donor, and community member experiences with what you want them to believe about your brand. So as opposed to just saying we need to improve customer service, you're improving all of the things that all of the experiences that you offer in the context of your brand. So whether you've gone through brand development or not, just having some kind of criteria that we're actually using to establish what the best practices are for customer service, and then making improvements from there. And so the word touch point, sometimes people aren't familiar with that term. A touch point is simply communicate all of the communication, human and physical interactions that your constituents experience. So a touch point could be the front desk experience. It could be sort of the physical space of the library. It could be what happens when people want to get a library card. What is that experience like? It could be when people visit the website. What's their experience when they visit the website? And so again, it's taking a deliberate look at all of those little pieces and making sure that that we're delivering them the way that we want to represent them in the context of our library. So that's the touchpoint analysis program. The next one, this is board volunteer development and training. So this could be done with your board, it could be done with your friends group. We've worked with a number of organizations to develop and facilitate board trainings that we would come in and do with your team, or more robust governance processes that are customized to meet your current and future needs. So governance meaning, sometimes board recruitment is a challenge, that we don't have the right people or the right mix of people on our board. But under this heading, there's a lot of possibilities. So, if this was something you'd be interested, I'd be happy to have a follow-up conversation to make sure that, we know exactly what we would do or what we would partner on. But topics could include enhancing your board members' understanding of the mission or the work of the library, helping to establish board expectations. If you don't have those in writing or feel like everybody is using the same standard as a board member, Fundraising and prospecting responsibilities. Again, if you are a library that does your own fundraising, building upon the skill sets that people have, but also helping them understand what their responsibilities are as a board member. Working on fundraising skills, so how do people be a good ambassador for the library, helping to build their skills around stewardship, that idea of moving people from low levels of engagement to being really engaged and potentially increasing their philanthropy on behalf of the library. And solicitation, how to preparing your board to help you ask for gifts, talking to individuals, talking to corporations, things like that. Under this heading, we could also focus on strategic planning with your board, or the development of a board work plan with specific goals. So your staff is doing one thing, your board is doing another thing, and having a plan behind it where you can help them to measure their progress and help them to measure their impact, can help to create a highly successful board. So again, a lot of possibilities under this, but the idea is that a high functioning engaged board or friends group has the potential to improve and grow the impact far beyond what the staff can do alone. So again, our specific goals under this could be agreed upon at an initial meeting, or a phone call if you want to talk before you submit your application for this offering. So the last offering is the Mystery Shopper Program. So again, we've done this across a system before a couple of times, but within your own library, this would help to objectively measure things like the quality of service, compliance with regulation, doing things a certain way, or to gather specific information about your own products, programs, services. And from there would help to develop staff and organizational improvement plans that would be really specific based on what we learned through the Mystery Shopper Program. So the first thing we would do is define what are the best practices as they relate to experiences that happen within your library. And then recruit mystery shoppers that would go in and perform specific tasks inside the library. And then provide a detailed firsthand report about what happened, what their experiences were. Our team would compile all that data and share it with your team, probably leadership, maybe your board, present themes that we identified that kind of tell a bigger story of what's happening in the library, and then help you figure out how you use that data to improve experiences within your library. So that's the Mystery Shopper Program. So, so that's it. I just wanted to recap the process itself. The application form is available on the RRLC website now. Applications are due by January 31st. So you've got over a month to get those in. And then awards will be made by the end of February. So that's all I've got. So I'm happy to take any questions that you have.
Thanks, Caitlin. There are some people that came in a little bit late. So if you missed some of the earlier descriptions of the programs that Caitlin was talking about, this will be recorded and we'll put it on the website for everyone. But I just wanted to reiterate that we have $7,500 this year, and we'd love to spend all of it on this program. And if you've never filled out one of these applications before, this is one of the few grant programs that we have where each individual library is able to submit it on their own. A lot of our grants do require a signature from the system level director. So for MCLS, that would be Patty Utaro. For Pioneer, that's Lauren Moore. But for this program, affiliate members and the individual library members are able to submit this on their own. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible for everybody to get some money to work on some of these things, because these are all really important things that can improve your service to your community. So Caitlin, can you just give a brief description of what the process might look like once we contact someone and say, yes, you have been awarded this grant? What does the process look like from there?
Yeah, so we usually get notification from RRLC about who the recipients are with contact information, and then somebody on our team would reach out to try to set up some kind of first, like a kickoff meeting to get to know each other, hear what's going on at the library, and make a plan for a timeline for how to move forward with whatever process they were approved for. One thing, this presentation certainly helps, but if there's anybody who, before they submit an application, is kind of on the fence about what program or process might be more helpful or more relevant, we're happy to have those conversations in advance of them submitting an application to make sure that, the program is really right for where they're at. In the past, we've had a couple of organizations when we sat down with them for that kickoff meeting, we heard something that made us think, the starting point might actually be this program versus this one, and went back to RRLC and basically asked if we could reallocate the money to a different program, which we are, can still do, but it's, obviously better if we do that up front. So, the reason for that is we want to do the program that's most helpful, but we also owe it to the library to say, it sounds like this program actually might be more helpful based on what you've told us. And so if anybody wants to have a pre-conversation, we're happy to do that. Most of our processes, any of the ones that I just talked through, are, typically 3 to 6 months engagements. So, not super long, but most of the time, because the grant awards are awarded at the beginning of the year, we tend to be able to get started as soon as libraries want to. So we could be starting work on any one of these projects as early as March of next year after the awards are given.
Great. Yeah, I anticipate that we will probably be able to notify in advance of that February 28th timeline. So if people really want to get started quickly, that shouldn't be a problem. Tony had asked about when the work would begin, and I think you basically answered that. Is there any case where you might see a project going sort of beyond, 12 months after the award has been made?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Have you ever had a case where the project has sort of gone beyond like the 12 months after the award was made? I'm just trying to, because I've only been through the brand development workshop. I'm just trying to get an idea of if there's any that are a little more longer ranging.
In terms of the ones that I went through, typically not, unless something
Okay.
major came up in the library and we needed to hit the pause button or something like that.
Okay.
And in terms of the starting point, we want to start the process when it makes sense for the library. So we've had some people, the grant award is given, but they feel like, we can't really give energy to this for 6 months, and that's okay too. So that's, a conversation that we'd have once the awards are announced with each library to make sure that the timing works for them as well. So we don't have any restrictions around when we start, but we do try to, keep our projects, we'll set a timeline at the beginning and keep our projects within that timeline.
Okay, great. I think it really makes sense to be flexible, and we're super flexible too about, as you said before, if you need to make changes to the program you applied for or change the timeline. Are there any other questions from the people that are in attendance today? Looks like we've got 5 of our 6, which is great. I know there are some people that came in late, so I'll just give you a quick minute to put in any questions into the chat that you have. Hope everyone had a decent commute this morning. I was lucky I got to work from home this morning, so that really helped.
Yeah, and if anybody wants, I can pull back up any of the slides of the programs. If anybody needs those again, so.
not seeing too many questions come in now, but as Caitlin said, she's available for questions, so am I. There are also is information on our website about previous awards that have been made with libraries and other organizations that have worked with Causewave. And I'm sure that they'd be willing to answer questions about a particular program and how it went for them if you're interested in that. So, let us know if there's anything that comes up between now and when the grant is due at the end of January. And otherwise, sorry, everybody. Did we get cut off for a second there?
Yeah, yep.
Sorry about that. Maybe my internet's being weird. Well, let's take that as a sign that we should end our program. Thank you so much, Caitlin, for your time this morning, and everybody for joining us today. And we will hopefully talk to you all soon.
Yeah, thanks everybody. My email address is up on the screen. It's kpellett, 2 L's, 2 T's at causewave.org. If you have any follow-up questions, I'd be happy to chat.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good day, everybody. Stay warm.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.